Ladies, time has expired, and I appreciate the offer to work across the aisle and the recognition that we need to streamline, we need to do something different and do something better going forward. I now recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Tiffany, the chairman of the Federal Land Subcommittee, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I take that as a guarantee that the Inflation Reduction Act is going to speed up NEPA because we're going to have a lot more bodies in the agencies. That's what I'm hearing out there, is that we've got a guarantee that with more bodies, we are going to see NEPA speed up. Mrs. Johnson, you cite in here some of the costs, 1 in 5 deaths worldwide, more than 10 million deaths per year as a result of various cancers, things like that. When you do your analysis of trade-offs in your organization, do you look at trade-offs? Do you look at lives that are saved as a result of having affordable energy?
So we consider the economic, the health, the environmental impacts of policies and practices when we are evaluating their efficacy.
So in regards to that, so for example, the life expectancy in the United States of America since 1900, it was about early 50s, 52 years old, something like that. It's now in its mid 70s. Is that considered? Infant mortality was 1 in 10 in the year 1900. It's now like 7 in 1,000, something like that. It could have changed a little bit over the years. Are those things taken into account? Because affordable energy was part of the reason that those great advances were taken or were made. Does your analysis take into account the good things that happen also when assessing trade-offs?
So again, we look holistically at situations. To go back in time, as you've done, we also look at the impact of land use decisions like redlining, like
So
decisions that we make to center people in undesirable areas.
I really appreciate-
center
I really
oil and gas operations in places
I really
where
appreciate that.
people live and build on top of it.
Ms. Johnson,
without
hold it.
consideration
I have a
the-
really limited amount of time, only get 5 minutes to ask questions. If you would show me your analysis, just send it to my office, all the things that you put into your analysis. We would love to see that. Who's not following the NEPA process? You said that you're not being able to put input in and stuff like that. There needs to be greater input. That's required in the NEPA process. Who is not following the NEPA process that we should really get after here because they're not allowing the input that should be allowed? Can you name a project where they are not following the NEPA process of proper input?
So I have a list here, which I am happy to share with you.
If you would share that with-
12 projects where the NEPA process was not followed.
If you would do that, I would really appreciate it. I'd love to see that. Did you mention the Navajo tribe and that there were concerns there in your opening testimony? Did you read? You perhaps don't have this documentation, but in our next panel, we're going to have a group that's going to talk about mining, and there's going to be a group from the Navajo tribe that is talking about the great things that mining have done for their tribe. Obviously, there's trade-offs. Would you like to see that testimony about the good things that are happening as a result of mining with the Navajo tribe?
So I think what you are raising here is a principle of environmental justice, and that is self-determination. But people have to be at the table in order to contribute to that kind of decision
making. They were clearly at the table, and they still are.
So final question. It results in what you are
final question, Ms. Johnson,
then absolutely.
Do you take any? Does your group take any organization take any money from the organization called Sea Change?
I have no awareness of that.
Okay. Do you know if any money your organization gets goes back to? We understand that there are Russian and Chinese dollars that are going into some environmental organizations. Do you know if? Have you tracked that at all to see if your organization has taken any money?
I have no awareness of that.
Okay. Well, it's important to be aware of that. I want to turn to Mr. Sandberg. And number 2, in regards to reforms of NEPA, you said establish a lead agency to spearhead environmental reviews. There's not a lead agency for environmental reviews?
Thank you for the question. I think that we need to strengthen the ability of a lead agency to drive all the various members of the federal family toward conclusion. And I think that's one of the process reforms that could be important as part of this permitting reform process.
So we don't have a lead agency. That actually is actually news to me and very unfortunate. Mr. Melito, will the USA be fossil fuel free in 10 years?
No,
Why not?
because we're going to rely upon oil and natural gas for decades to come. We're going to see a huge increase in the use of renewables, but the oil and gas portion of our energy portfolio is also going to continue to rise substantially.
So the American people should be disabused of this notion that we're going to end fossil fuel use in 10 years.
Absolutely, that's not reality.
I yield.